I just really want people to know that you can do it. You can help yourself. You can let go of your past, anything that's holding you back. You just have to decide that you're going to help yourself and that you're going to take small, actionable steps and make progress consistently. And you can do it.
In today's busy world, how can we find the inspiration, knowledge, and energy to live a healthy and empowered life? If we balance and harmonize our mind, exercise our body, live according to the laws of nature, and connect to spirit, can we find a way to heal, become our authentic self, and live our purpose with love? I am your hostess, Emmi Fortin, and welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite. Hello and welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite with Emmi Fortin. Today I interviewed Emmi Fortin. She is a breakup and relationship coach, and we talk all things relationships, whether you're in one, you're not in one, you want to be in one, you don't want to be in one, you're not sure if you should be in this one that you're in, or you're on again, off again, all that stuff. We go there with Emmi. But before we get into the episode, I needed to thank another amazing person who gave me a wonderful review on iTunes for the show, and it means so much to me because I hope you know that they really are the lifeblood of podcasts, is when you take a moment to give a review and express your feelings and sentiments on if the show is helping you or not. It means so much to me. So thank you so much to Patty A. Mill, who says, if you want to feel happier, stronger, and healthier in your thoughts and body, this is the podcast for you. Emmi is a wealth of knowledge and experience, and she shares herself with the world. Her magnetism and presentation has inspired me for over 10 years. She keeps me on track and motivated to stay healthy and fit. So, wow, huge virtual hug coming through my screen to yours, to Patty A. Mill. Thank you so much for that wonderful review. So, this episode with Emmi Fortin, breakup and relationship coach, we, like I said, get into all things relationships, and we talk about how important it is for you to have an awareness of your individuality to truly be empowered, not only in general, but also with relationships. And we talk about how it's important that how we show up in a relationship is going to determine kind of how the relationship goes. And the relationship between our own self-care and our own self-love, and how that relates to our relationship with other people. And putting yourself first and putting your needs first, and how important that is. And we know it's tricky. Yeah, we get it. But wow, Emmi really explains to us how that really is a critical component to have a healthy and thriving relationship with somebody else. You know, as they say, your relationship with yourself is the primary one, right? And it's really cool because we get into how relationships can be like mirrors and really our best teachers, because they often mirror back to us our own stuff, our own issues. It certainly makes us aware of our triggers, our emotional triggers, and our hot buttons, and our tendency to project things we don't like about ourselves onto other people and all that stuff. So the relationships really are major factors in this earth school that we are in, and learning not only about ourselves, but how we fit into the world, and what our soul is trying to teach us to make us better and more of who we truly are, which is truly love and light and creativity and community and oneness. And relationships are a great tool for that. So if you're in an off-again, on-again relationship, or you want to be in one, or you're having trouble with boundaries in your current relationships, this episode is for you. Plus, Emmi gives us tips for making choices from a place of clarity and balance and power, rather than choosing relationships out of fear and insecurity, which, oh my gosh, how many people do you know that do that? Hopefully it's not you, but isn't that common, right? We are in relationships for the wrong reasons. So let's get clear. Let's get help finding our voice and speaking up, even though what we say might not be received very well. We have to learn how to do it anyway. And in order to respect and love ourselves, we must find the courage to speak our truth. And yes, sometimes that means standing alone. But you know what? You're never really alone because you have yourself with you. And your soul always has your back. Don't forget it. So let's get into the episode now with Emmi Fortin. Emmi, welcome to the show.
Hi, Amy. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Well, please tell our viewers and our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do and your story.
Sure, thank you. So, my name is Emmi, and I'm a breakup and relationship coach. So, sometimes when I tell people that phrase, they're like, "What? What is that?" But really, my intention, my purpose is to help people get through their breakups. Sometimes people are having a really hard time struggling with it, and I just want to help them get through that process. But also, it doesn't have to be a breakup you're going through right now. I know lots of people who have a hard time letting go of past relationships or even experiences in their life. And so I really like to help them through all that as well.
That's so interesting. I mean, that's really niche. I mean, you're not just a relationship coach, but you're actually a breakup relationship coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I do deal with relationships. It's the core, of my work, but I find that everything that is related to relationships really comes back to the individual. And so if we can empower the individual, bring awareness to themselves, their past, their experiences, they're going to show up in a completely different way in every relationship in their life, not even just romantic ones. And what I see is that people's entire life starts to change once you can get clarity and understanding of your relationships and of yourself. So it's really a beneficial thing for multiple areas of your life.
Well, it's well known in psychology that relationships are really the school, the true emotional psychological school of our life because they really put us up against our own stuff, right? And they're the playground, if you will, of really where the souls grow or not grow and the real hard lessons are learned because, when our heart is on the line, it's like, oh boy, the gloves can come off, and the real hard work begins. So my hat's off to you for that line of work.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. One of the things that I teach and I talk about is our relationships, as you said, are just mirrors, basically. They're a reflection to us of things that we need to learn, maybe about ourselves or just about life in general. And people are presented to you in order to help you learn those things. And what I also say is that chances are, if you don't learn it, the first time around, it's probably going to keep on coming back until you learn it. So when sometimes people say, oh, I seem to always, be dating the same guy or be in the same kind of relationship, it's like, well, you probably haven't learned the lesson that's being presented to you yet. And chances are you're kind of just stuck in these patterns. And so I like to help people kind of snap out of that and just become aware of what they have been doing and then what's possible for them to do and change for the future.
Right on. So sometimes you're just mirroring back to them the reality of an objective view of this is kind of what's happening to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, tell us, what got you into this? Did you have some personal experience in this regard?
100%. Yes. I think a lot of people, their purpose kind of grows out of some kind of struggle, and mine is no different.
Right on.
I was in an on and off relationship. So I don't know if you have ever experienced this, Amy, or if you know anyone that has, but yeah.
I know a lot of people who have, but I can't say I kind of did. I don't think I can officially say I had an on again, off again. I was kind of on or off. But I know it's very common. So,
right. And some people call it like a situationship. It's something that is very uncertain and it's not clearly defined. And it just creates a lot of anxiety, stress, because everything you're doing in your life is kind of uncertain based on this relationship, non-relationship, you don't even know what to call it, right? So essentially I was going through breakups with the same person over and over for 6 years. And so over time, that just really started to take its toll on me in many different ways. And so I would say outwardly, even people who knew me, saw me regularly, they probably wouldn't have picked up on anything really being wrong, so to say. But inside, I was just super struggling to just, get through every day. I think a lot of people, especially going through breakups, are overwhelmed with all kinds of emotions, and they can be paralyzing. You can get super depressed. I know I was for a while, anxiety, indecisive because I just didn't know, I couldn't really trust myself to make decisions anymore. And my self-worth was just like plummeting year after year. So all of these side effects kind of led me to this one instance. I specifically remember it. I was probably going through another breakup, and I was on the floor in the middle of my living room in the fetal position, crying my eyes out. And I know this sounds dramatic, but it was lucid for me because I just kind of snapped. Something snapped in my head, and I was like, this is ridiculous. And I was like, and this completely sucks. Like, there's no reason why I should be putting myself through this right now. And your logical brain is always trying to tell you what to do. It's just hard when you have that disconnect emotionally. So in that moment, I just realized, no one else is going to pull you out of this. Like, you need to be the one who pulls you out of this. You need to be the one to get yourself unstuck. And that's not to say that I couldn't ask for help, Amy. Like, I think a lot of people feel maybe ashamed of asking for help, but that's not what it's about. It's about truly deciding, from this moment forward, I'm going to do whatever I need to do to start moving forward, to start making little tiny steps. And it's not like you might make the complete jump all in one day and just wake up and be like, I'm doing it, and I'm rid of everything. You have to just start being mindful that you are moving forward little by little every day, consistently, for the rest of as long as you can do it for.
Wow, that's so interesting. Because again, I know it's really common for the on again, off again thing, and but even for the younger generation, like anyone watching or listening, they're in their 20s or 30s. I know the relationship rules, if you will, are very different than my generation, and the older generations, and those boundaries are very blurry already. Because I know, like, people, it's like, are you going out, or are you hanging out, or just, Netflix and chill? I mean, all these weird definitions of quote unquote what a relationship is. I mean, long gone are the days from back in the 60s when, a man would call a girl's father and ask permission to even take her on a date for an ice cream and pick her up in a suit and tie, and they're officially dating. And the dances where people would ask people to dance, and then you're going steady, and all these relationship rules are now out the window. And honestly, I'm kind of out of the game a little bit, I'm not ashamed to say, but I know that the other different generations have different parameters when it comes to what a relationship is. So this is very interesting to me, because I know a lot of people listening and watching must be like, yeah, I got this one guy, but then I got this other guy, but this is the guy that's every couple months, and we stay in touch. And what really is a relationship? Like, what constitutes it? Someone like texting each other on Christmas, saying hello to the past lover? Or is it someone you actually physically see and you're in the same proximity? Someone you're actually sleeping with? Like, what are your thoughts on all these definitions of what is a relationship, and how do we make sense of it all?
That is a great question, because I think that every person probably has their own unique answer. But the key is that you have to actually know what your answer is.
And be happy with it. Like, be okay with whatever the answer is.
Yes. And I think one of the major issues, I guess we could call it, is that people will enter into a relationship or whatever it is without fully being clear themselves about what exactly they want and then how they will create boundaries to make sure that that is what they're actually experiencing. So, as I'll use myself as an example, when I had started in that relationship, I did know what I wanted. I knew I wanted an exclusive relationship. I knew I wanted it to be supportive and loving and all these things. However, my boundaries weren't there. And so when I didn't feel supported in those ways, rather than just ending it for good and moving on, I played with the idea of the relationship and I just kind of permitted it to go on for a very long time. Um, because I was not honest with myself or the person about what was okay and not okay. And I did not draw the line. So, unfortunately, people don't like to hear this, but relationships have so much more to do with you than they do the other person. And so, one thing that's really challenging to kind of get real with yourself, but that's really necessary, is first of all, your self honesty. You have to get so clear about what you want, why you want it, because sometimes the things that we want could be based from fears and insecurities. And so we want to make sure that we look at that. Because if we're deciding what we want based on more negative emotions, then they might not actually be healthy choices. And so the more you can get to know yourself, understand yourself, and why you want the things that you do, you can start to understand if you're making these choices from a place of balance and groundedness, or if they're more out of fears and insecurities. And for me, it was a place of insecurity. I was thinking, well, if I don't go along with this situation, then, he's not going to want me. In that moment, I should have thought, well, that's okay, because that's not what I want. But instead, my insecurities made the decisions for me. And so I think, getting back to your question, it's super important for people to identify clearly what they want and why, and what will they do to make sure that they are creating that situation. Because you create your relationship, you create your life, you create your life experiences to an extent. Of course, some things happen to us that are out of our control, but the way that you choose and respond to decisions, to things you're presented with, is going to dictate the path that your relationship in life takes. So you need to be clear. That's the first thing.
So, absolutely. I mean, what I find too is that people don't even have a relationship with themselves. And then they're all, partnering with other people. And that just is the recipe for codependence. And then that leads to nothing but, all kinds of psychological problems. So, I mean, how do you help someone that is in a relationship and they're looking at, they're looking at the good, they're trying to be optimistic. There's things they love about their partner, but there's things that drive them crazy and they're definitely compromising on and they struggle with. But then they come up with the fears like, well, I'm not going to get any better, what else is out there? And they compromise and they barter and they make excuses. And what do you have to say for those kind of people? Like, what would your advice be for someone like that?
Yeah, sure. I think a lot of people are in that situation. And of course, we know nobody's perfect, and you are going to have, people are going to drive you nuts even when you love them and are in a relationship with them that's healthy. But I think the important thing is, so this is a question that I ask, and I think a lot of people are kind of already familiar with the kind of making the wish list in your mind of what you want in a partner, right? And so that is important because you want to have an idea of what you're looking for in another person, and maybe characteristics that you would like them to have. But a question that I ask that I think could be more impactful is, how do you want to feel consistently in your relationship? Because quite honestly, your person could meet all of the marks on your checklist, but you may not feel the way you want to feel with that person. So I created this relationship cheat sheet, and it's actually offer it to anybody who's listening. And not only does it ask you to write out what you want in your partner, but how do you want to feel consistently? And so that's something that you can check in with yourself with on a regular basis and just do a quick little self-assessment. Am I feeling loved and supported, or whatever your top core values are, 50% of the time? Am I feeling it 90% of the time, 10% of the time? Use a rating system from 1 to 10, um, and if it's not a good rating, then that's a time to reassess the situation and get real about what you're creating for yourself. Because another thing I ask people is, well, how long would you like to struggle for? If your ratings are low, then how long are you going to wait for this person to change, if they ever change? Should you even be trying to change them? Because really, we need to accept the reality of the situation and not wishful thinking of what we want it to be or what we want the person to be. And if you were to accept that person 100% right now for who they are, how they are, could you do it? Like, would you be happy with this person if you accept them as they are right now 100%? And if your answer is no, then that's like a big red flag that you should start waving.
Right on. Well, I love that you teach your clients to think about the feelings, like how do I want to feel list. I actually mention that a lot in my work, that, we all have the to-do list, the action items every day. But I also teach people to get in the habit of creating a how I want to feel list. How do I want to feel every day? And because our feelings are our experience with life, it's the sensory experience in life that gives our brain information that makes meaning out of our experience. So hats off to you for teaching your clients that. And to your point, how it's very common that people make their dream list for the dream partner, like they'll have all these qualities. But I find that often they don't make the list what they're going to bring to the relationship. They think about what they want to get, but they don't think about, okay, what am I bringing to the relationship? My half, because relationships are a relation and they're reciprocal. So when you look at, and I had to do this to myself recently, or for myself, not to myself, but for myself recently. And I got to tell you, when I looked at my list, first of all, I had a really easy time listing all the things I wanted in a partner. That just was like flying off the pen. But as soon as I got to the Amy side, because I just took a piece of paper and did 2 columns. This is what I want. This is what I bring. And when I got to the Amy side of the column, it was like crickets. It was like I couldn't think of anything for like 10 minutes. And then I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm bringing this. I guess I'm bringing this. I struggled with it a lot. But then also when I looked at the list, it was so unbalanced to me. And I was thinking, what kind of man would want a woman like this? Like, is this a match? Looking at the 2 columns, you can't attract something you're not. Everyone knows that saying. So this little exercise made it very clear for me, like, okay, these are the things I'm wanting, but am I going to mirror that back to that kind of man, or is that kind of man going to be attracted? Is this a good polarity match, if you will? And it was very visually revealing to me. And so I love that you do that with your clients as well.
I really like the idea of the side by side, because you're like, oh boy, this is an unbalanced.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I was like, oh boy, I guess I'm going to be waiting for a relationship.
But I really like that, what you were saying, because I actually wanted to point that out as well. Like, when I'm working with people, I get real. Like, let's get direct. I consider myself to be empathetic and compassionate. However, I'm not going to let you off the hook. And so when you're saying, you can easily make a list of what you want in a partner, but are you that yourself? And so a lot of the coaching that I do or use with my clients is we're bringing everything back to you, because so many people put the focus on, this is what he's not doing, this is what I wish you would do better, and it's just all the energy is outward on the other person. It should be coming right back. You take that and you bring it right back to you, and you think about not only what are you offering to this relationship, but like I said, why do you want all these other things? And one of the things that I use the relationship wish list for is actually to allow you to give those things to yourself first, rather than having the or expecting and asking the other person to give it for you. So, I'm sure everybody's heard the phrase like fill your cup first. And so if you have a wish list of I want to feel supported, okay, well, before you reach outward for that in your partner or in somebody you're dating, how can you make yourself feel more supported? Think of specific action steps that you can do. I want to feel beautiful, loved, whatever it is on your top 5. Make sure that you're doing something daily, weekly, that's making you feel that same feeling, but it's coming intrinsically. Because I think a lot of people enter relationships because obviously we all want to feel good. I mean, that's why we do everything, right? And so if we find a person that makes us feel good, that's great. But we can't rely on that person to be our sole source of those feelings. And so the more you can practice, usually the things you want on the top of your wish list are the things that you feel like you need the most. And so you should be trying to give those things to yourself in addition to the other person. And it really should come first.
Amen. Interview over. That's really the whole thing. I'm so, so grateful that you said that. And that just tells us that you are a brilliant coach, because that truly is empowerment, Emmi. I mean, that's putting the locus of control on you, and you're not dependent and reactive to how someone else is treating you, how life is doing things to you, what's happening to you, but it puts the power right back in your own seat. So high fives through the camera.
Yeah, I agree. And we all know this, but we tend to forget when we're in a relationship that you cannot control what somebody else thinks. You can't control how they act or behave. You can't control what they want to do with their life. And so that includes being in a relationship with you. You can control your own emotions. I'm not saying to not have them, but like you said, be responsive rather than reactive. When they come into your body, get curious about them and say, oh, I wonder what that's doing here. I wonder what that's about, rather than, taking the anger and displacing it on the other person. Well, it's because they did this or they said that. Okay, let's bring it back. And it's not like I'm not trying to excuse people's poor behavior, because there's plenty of people who are not good partners. So I definitely want to validate that. But I do have to ask you, if you are with a partner who has crappy behavior, you are choosing to be with that person.
And excusing them. How do you help people find their voice, Emmi, to speak up for themselves when something is bothering them and they're afraid to say something and rock the boat?
Yeah, that's a huge one, because it can be really scary when you don't know how the other person's going to react to what you're thinking and what you're feeling. And so, to be honest, Amy, I do kind of a process where we get to that I feel like that's a second level work, because in order to truly be able to kind of stand in confidence and say, this is what I need, this is what I want, you kind of have to do this pre-work of nourishing yourself, taking care of any wounds that you may still be holding on to, dealing with your emotional baggage, recognizing your past behavior and patterns and why you do what you do, why you make the choices you make, so that when you do finally come to this point of wanting to speak with your partner about what you want and deserve, you have already done all of the processing and reflecting about yourself first and you're aware of all those things, it just brings this extra sense of confidence because you now understand yourself. And you know now that you're not just saying it to say it, you're saying it because it's a truth. And when we can distinguish what we think we want just based on like our past behavior versus what we know to be true, it's a lot easier to then state a boundary and hold it because it's in your body now. It's like, this is true for me. It's not just what I think I might want or need. And so when we do the work first and then get to that point, I have this little communication formula that I typically advise people to try out. And you don't have to try it on your romantic partner. You can try it on anybody that maybe you want to set a boundary with. But I find that it's best to first kind of validate what the other person thinks and feels and say, I understand that you get annoyed if I do this or when I say this. And then so you validate how the other person feels, because let's face it, human beings are not going to listen to you unless they feel listened to and unheard.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not saying excuse their behavior, but what I'm saying is acknowledge the feeling, because everybody has their own feelings and they're not wrong. Your feelings are your feelings, whatever they are. Mm-hmm. And it just is what it is. They're just there. So acknowledge, validate the feeling, and then you can state their behavior and why it's a problem or why it bothers you. You can say, it makes me feel unimportant and belittled when you yell at me out of anger, or whatever it is that you want to state. So validate their feelings, state their behavior so that they're even aware of what they're doing. Some people think for some reason that when you're in a relationship, you're telepathic. That's not a thing. So you need to make sure you state what it is. And then you want to give them a solution. So a lot of people will end there and they'll just say, like, these are all my problems. Okay, fix it, deal with it. Now you can say, I would really appreciate if the next time we were having a conversation, if you feel yourself getting angry and that you're going to yell, just step off into the other room, or I will leave the room until we can calm back down. That's like a very generic example, but you're giving a consequence. Not like you're punishing a person, but you're telling them, this is what I'm going to do the next time this happens. I'm telling you in advance. That's step one. Step two is probably the harder one. So it takes a lot of courage to state that boundary, but the second part is the most important, which is to actually maintain it. Do what you said you were going to do the next time. And you have to do it consistently, because people like to push and see how much they can get away with. It's not just kids that do that. It's adults too.
Yeah.
And so you're teaching people what you will accept and what you won't accept. And that's not saying that you should never compromise and be reasonable and bend, and you shouldn't be barking out orders. This is what I want. No, it's not about that. It's just about being clear. It's about communicating what you want and need, how you feel, and then telling them this is what is going to happen if this behavior happens again.
Yeah, well, that famous saying, we treat people how to treat us, and how you're treated is what you allow. So I think that's all just so great. And I think the challenge we have, Emmi, is so much of the world of feelings is so uncharted territory for so many people, and we are not educated and schooled in how to navigate those waters. And so much of the way that we communicate is based on our upbringing, our environment, mirroring what we saw going on. Like, not even necessarily what we were told in the verbal, but what we literally saw, like with our eyes. I mean, actions speak louder than words, right? There's a fight, people yell, and one of them leaves, or, so people are going to leave when they get upset is, psychologically the message, let's just say. So it's a very tricky world to step in, that world of the heart. And because I feel like a lot of people don't have instructions on to even know what they're feeling. It's actually, there's a term for that. It's alexithymia. Alexithymia is when you can't articulate what you're feeling, and it's very common in trauma survivors or anyone with real deep emotional wounds. And it must be very challenging for you to traverse that plane for people of helping them, number one, identify what they're feeling accurately, and then number two, communicate it in a nonviolent, meaning non-confrontational, productive way. I mean, this is heavy lifting. This is real emotional fitness right here.
Yeah. So I use a lot of writing and journaling in my exercises with clients. There's a lot of, it's really more about exploration. And I don't know if you've ever had like experience working with a coach before, but it's really my job to ask a lot of really good questions. And so the whole idea is just to get you curious and thinking about the emotion. So I like to do a lot of reflection questions so that the person has already had time to think about a certain topic before we have a discussion about it. And then I'll kind of pick out like the key points and then we just explore it. We start to think about, okay, I noticed that a theme in your writing was abandonment, right? And then we just start to explore that. What are some other areas in your life where you may have felt abandoned? Let's just list those out. And in the coaching, we do it in a manner where we don't have to go and relive our trauma or relive our experiences. We're going to try to talk about it almost like as an observer. So we take kind of an objective point of view and say, okay, yeah, I can kind of think about what these different areas may have been. Or, like you said, I may have observed this in my parents' relationship. Maybe it was even something that happened to you in school, friendship dynamics, whatever. And we just start to approach it from an exploration view. And I just find that it relieves some of the pressure rather than the person having to come up with like an actual, this is what I'm feeling and why. We just kind of take a windy path, almost like the back roads of Maine, and we just explore.
Okay, so what comes up then? Like how do you, I mean, I would imagine ultimately as you keep deducing it and deducing it, it comes down to fear of loss of love, fear of loss of connection, fear of being alone. I would imagine because, ultimately that's what we're all afraid of.
Yeah, a lot of times it does come down to, I would say the biggest core themes are fears of not being loved or abandonment, but also the not being enough. That's a big one also. Not feeling like you deserve to be loved or you deserve to have happiness or whatever it is. And just a lot of insecurity. And so I think, like what you were saying, for people to identify their emotions, they're of course going to start with the surface ones. And you have to do it in a way where you're just like slowly peeling back those surface emotions and getting to that root one so that you can identify how that emotion is showing up in your choices in your present day life. Because we usually make our choices based on our true core belief system. And so if our belief system is I'm not enough or I'm not lovable, then all of the choices we make, whether we know it cognitively or not, are being made from that position.
But I have to ask you, I mean, a lot of that is so deep in our subconscious, Emmy. A lot of people aren't even aware they actually have that subconscious tape running in their brain. Like if you had told me 20 years ago, well, a lot of your workaholism and your ambition is because you're really ultimately not feeling worthy at a deep down level, I would have been like, what are you talking about? That's not true. I wasn't even aware of it. So how do you help people go there if a lot of it is subconscious?
Yeah, sure. So sometimes, depending on the person and how much personal growth they've already done in their life, I don't really like, if somebody's like a complete newbie, we might not want to jump right into
Yeah.
a meditation or visualization. So kind of get a feel for where you're at. I always want to meet you where you're starting. And if it is, someone who's comfortable, maybe we'll use some meditations, visualizations to just get in touch with your body, because most of the time we're living just up here in our heads. And so the more we can just take a moment to, okay, let's focus on that one emotion of abandonment, let's say. Um, as you get into meditation, as you get into more of that trance state, okay, where are you noticing it in your body? Is it moving? Is it in one area of your body? And just how does it feel? Is it more of an agitation? Is it more of a constriction? And so we can integrate the physicality and get people more grounded in their body and up out of the logical mind. So that's just one tool. The other tool, like I said, I like to use a lot of reflection prompts. And I also, one of the very first exercises I do with people is a free write. It's just like you're at liberty to write about whatever you want. However it comes out. You might start at point A and end up at a completely different point at the end. But that is so much data. Like we can go back and we can notice if there's any common themes in the different experiences you've had, if there's any patterns of the choices that you're making. And it just kind of all starts coming together as we slowly explore. We don't really hit everything all at once, but it's a process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Tell me, what was the biggest takeaway that you got out of your 6 year on again, off again experience of all that tumultuousness that you went through? I mean, ultimately, what was the big prize at the end for you?
I would definitely say the key thing that people need to ultimately do, I would say it's the number one most important thing. Of course, all of this other work needs to go with it, but the moment of decision, like the ultimate decision, I'm going to move on now. Like a lot of people, including myself, dabbled in it. Like it's very different to say, I want to move on. I wish I could move on.
I should move on. Yeah, I should. Yep.
That's not going to really get you very far. The moment that you decide is the moment when you can truly start to heal and move forward. And so, as hard as that can be, it's kind of ironic because it's like the easiest hard decision you'll ever make. It's like, do you want to keep suffering for years and years and years? Well, no. I mean, that's like when you phrase it that way, it's an easy decision. No.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, then this is what you need to do.
Powerful. Well, one of my favorite expressions is once you make a decision, make it the right decision.
And
Yeah, and I'm sure you've had like this experience in all different areas of your life, and anyone listening, it's like I'm sure you've had times in your life when you just decided that you were going to have something or do
done.
something,
Yeah.
and there was nothing that was going to get in your way, right? And you make it a priority. And a lot of people say, well, I don't have time to do this, and I don't have, I have, and it's true, we all have very, very busy lives, especially people who have families and kids and full-time jobs. You are busy. However, if you are going to actually make moving forward a decision, then you need to make it a priority. And so you will make it happen, even if it's just a tiny bit every day. That's still progress. And so that's what I like to work with, is like small little steps and small actionable wins, because you are moving forward. It might not happen overnight. It's probably not going to happen overnight. But we work to create those action steps so that you can be always moving forward. And even if you do take a step back, you're still moving forward.
Fantastic. Yeah, and hopefully you don't have to wait till you're in so much pain that you really don't have a choice, like it's an ultimatum, but hopefully you can act before it gets that bad. Emmy, tell us what your R.E.D process is, the R.E.D process.
Yeah. So as we were talking about in the beginning of with my clients, I'll go bring them through the first what I call is like a phase. So I've experienced myself and I've kind of come to understand that there's really three major areas of transformation as you go through emotional healing. And so I call it my R.E.D process because I like to lead people through the three phases. So the R stands for restore, the E stands for elevate, and the D stands for dare. So in the restore phase, we are bringing all of our attention back to us, which is what we had talked about. We're bringing awareness to our emotions, behaviors, patterns. Basically, we're doing self-care like on steroids, right? And so we restore our own love for ourselves in as many ways as we can. We bring understanding. After the restore phase, you're kind of purging everything you need to purge. You're building yourself intrinsically. Then you move on to elevate, which is okay. We've now kind of taken care of these root emotions, these root beliefs. Now we can start to focus on you as an individual person, like becoming the best version of you. So even though this is like a breakup and relationship program, it's also kind of like life coaching because you're going to grow into your best self. It's such like a cliche life coach thing. But you want to focus on your personal goals. How are you elevating yourself so that you can be the best version of yourself for the partner that you want on your wish list, just like we had been discussing. So, like binging on personal growth, start assessing your own personal goals. What do you want in 1 year? What do you want in 5 years? What do you want in 10 years? And it's not like you have to have like a super plan for that, but you should at least be kind of thinking about it and having an idea because that needs to set you on your path. If you're just kind of aimlessly, flailing around like a leaf in the wind, then you're not really creating a path for yourself. You're kind of just letting yourself fall into situations as they come. So elevate is really all about personal goals, bringing it back to you. The third part could potentially be the a really hard part for people. I call it dare because you're now stepping out of your comfort zone. Now you are actively choosing to do things that are unfamiliar to you, uncomfortable, because you're going now into a new reality. So if you have lived your life in all of these patterns that you've seen played out since childhood in different areas of your life, well, now you're aware of them. So now if you don't do something to make a different choice, create a new pattern, then you're just probably going to keep yourself on that same path. So the D is probably one of the most important steps because it's so easy to slide back into things that are comfortable. And we have to get so uncomfortable, which is why I say that breakups can possibly be the best thing that ever happened to you because it puts you in this state of such discomfort. You are so freaking miserable that you are willing to do anything it takes and you are now open to change. When we're comfortable, we're probably not really motivated to make changes because it's not really that big of a deal. So a lot of times the more traumatic and dramatic a breakup and relationship is, the more you are able to embrace that discomfort and using it to create a new reality by making new choices.
Yeah, you can use the energy, the pain, that energy to propel you forward. Pain or pleasure, those are two of the biggest motivators. I mean, either way, whatever gets you moving out of a bad situation, right?
And people get very stuck, and this is how I felt stuck because you tend to keep yourself in that mindset of loss, right? I mean, you are losing something. You're losing a person, maybe a relationship, and you do have to grieve that. But at some point, you need to make that shift, that transition into actually, this can be my opportunity. I'm starting from scratch. Like, I don't even have to worry about what this person thinks anymore. You can now create exactly the relationship that you know you want and the life that you want. So it's an opportunity to do that.
And an opportunity to have it with your own soul first, because ultimately that's what life is trying to get you to do anyway. So you can ultimately create your soulmate and find your soulmate, because we all need to find that relationship within before we can find it without.
It's a journey. And, a lot of people talk about like, okay, once you find yourself, you can have a relationship. But I think as long as you are on a growth path and you're aware of the fact that you need to grow in certain areas, there are definitely people that can come into your life, maybe even in the form of a relationship, that will help you on that path and that they are on that path as well. And so I often ask my clients, like, if you think about your potential person that you're thinking about dating or that you're with, how open are they to growth? And how open are you to growth? Because as long as you're both on a growth path, then it could be okay to grow together. You don't necessarily have to do it on your own. I think it's overwhelming
Right
sometimes
on.
for people who are newly single. They're like, oh, like I can't even stand being single, let alone have to do this whole thing like by myself. It's like very overwhelming. So I think sometimes it's okay for people to come into your life and you can be on that path together.
Yeah, that is a great point, Emmy, for sure. It doesn't mean you have to be a fully baked recipe. You can still be in the oven and adding the ingredients and, have people accompany you on your journey for sure. But I love the fact that would encourage people to put on their list growth minded, which is funny because that's one of the top 5 in my list, that my partners definitely has to be growth minded. That's essential. The day we think we know it all and, story is over is the day the story is over. Because as they say, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know, the more there is to learn. So, Emmy, as we come to the end, give us some encouraging comments of what a lot of your clients say when they're on the other side. For those people listening or watching that are like, but I can't, I can't do it. I can't do it. Like, share with us the people that did finally get through it. They went through the comfort zone. They went through the pain, the uncomfortableness, the crying on the fetal position and all that. And then they're on the other side. Share with us what some of them say.
Yeah, thank you for asking that, because I think that's really important, because when you are in that space, it just seems like you're just drowning, right? And I want to say that some of the people I've worked with were like at ground zero when they came to me. Divorces, lost everything, maybe blindsided, just very poor situations. And I think the most important things that they have gained is a shift in mindset towards opportunity and what they can create, and that this is not a death sentence. In fact, this is like maybe the beginning of a whole new life for you. So it's like you're a seedling, you're about to bloom, but also a newfound confidence. I find that they come out a lot more confident and empowered because we've taken a look at the core limiting beliefs. And a lot of people have those limiting beliefs. And so if we can just release them and work towards shifting those into being belief systems that actually work for us instead of against us, then it starts to affect your entire life. And so I've actually had a few clients notice that it affected not only their relationship with themselves, but also their career path. Like all of a sudden, I had a client get a promotion that she wanted and a job that was more desirable to her. I had another client start his own business when he was even thinking of leaving his profession. So your career can change, your whole life dynamic, relationships can change. And getting clarity on your relationships will not only affect all areas of your life, but it will affect your physical self too. Because as you know, negative emotions, they take up residence and space in our bodies. They actually change us physiologically. And so we need to create space to release that. And emotions are going to happen to us for the rest of our lives. So if we can have the skills and tools to manage them when they come, it doesn't mean they have to disappear and never come back. We just have to know how to manage them in our future situations so that we can be balanced.
Yes, yes. And I would imagine too that we would encourage anybody listening or watching to make sure you have support. Make sure you have someone you can talk to where you feel safe to share your experience and what you're going through, that will be that encouraging voice, like telling you the things that Emmi is saying right now, like telling you, because I'm just thinking as you're saying, Emmi, of some of my girlfriends and people very close to me that have gone through very difficult breakups and end of marriages with kids and blindsided and cheated on and different horrible things. And some of the things that I would say to them that, I mean, I just think they needed to hear someone say to them, it's going to be okay. You're going to get through it. It's okay. You will live, like just to have someone say that to you, that, oh, are you sure? Because I'm even just thinking, a couple of them are like, are you sure? I can't imagine life without him. And I can't, how am I going to live? And, just, and of course I'm no therapist. I'm not you, but I was just a kind, compassionate person who cared about them, saying, you're going to be okay. We'll get through this. And trust me, in a year, you're going to be better for it, because why would you want to be with anyone that doesn't want to be with you, or you're not safe with, or you can't trust, or any of these things, right? Then we go back to the self-worth thing. But all I'm saying is to remind people listening and watching that make sure you have someone, even if you have to pay them, find a therapist, get in touch with Emmi. Emmi, you're going to tell us in a minute how they can do that you can talk to, that will help support you emotionally, because you're going to need it.
That's so important. And, I'm glad that you said that, because each of my clients actually has also said, I didn't realize how much of a support system I actually have, how much of a network I have. Because I think that's another thing, is when you're in a relationship, you always are thinking about this other person only, and it's this tunnel vision. And when they're out of the picture, now all of a sudden you like remember all these other people, even if they're not close friends. They're just like people that you just start to notice. You're like, oh wow, that person always gets me coffee in the morning, or the person at the store I always go to, she's always so pleasant and friendly in the morning, and she asked genuinely how I was today. And then you can just start to notice all of the people in your support network, like I think you said is so important to surround yourself with constantly.
And I'll just say too, and I know we're closing, but that's just a great point, because it makes me think of when I was much younger and had boyfriends and obviously very close relationships. I think, I don't want to stereotype, but I guess like women sometimes, like that's their person, and their friends and everything is secondary. At least I was guilty of that a couple times, not all of my life and all my relationships, but wow, what a tough lesson that was to learn. Boyfriends come and go, but your friends, your people, they're your people. And no matter how close you get with someone, you find that ultimate soulmate, your dream person. I would just suggest don't make them your everything. I mean, life is about all the relationships, right? And the different colors of the bouquet, if you will.
For sure. Yes, absolutely. And, in my healing process, I actually asked the universe, like, please bring me strong, supportive, wonderful women. I specifically wanted more female friends in my life. And but then if you ask for it, you have to open your eyes. Like
there
you're
you go.
you're gonna notice that they're there, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this woman is reaching out to me, and this here. And as long as you're open and aware, they're there.
Such a good point. I love it. Yeah, it's like we ask and we don't realize the universe is giving it to you. Put your phone down for a minute so you can notice. Emmi, this has been amazing. What last final words would you like to share with our viewers and listeners?
I just really want people to know that you can do it. You can help yourself. You can let go of your past, anything that's holding you back. You just have to decide that you're going to help yourself and that you're going to take small, actionable steps and make progress consistently. And you can do it.
And reach out for help if you need it. If you feel like, but I can't, then find someone who can help you get, step by step.
I agree.
Yeah. And on that note, tell us how we can find you, what you offer for people to get the help they need, and your social media, all that stuff.
Sure, thanks. So I do have a website. It's www.emmifortin.com. It's Emmi with EMMI. And I can be found on social media, the same name, Instagram at Emmi Fortin, Facebook, Emmi Fortin. And if anybody who's listening wants to kind of get a little jump start on really getting clear on what you want in a relationship with both yourself and in a partner, I have a completely free relationship cheat sheet that you can get right on my website. And it's the one that we spoke about. And I also have a brand new training if anybody wants to learn 4 skills that you really need to have in order to help yourself move forward. So you can get that on my website as well. I offer a Wake Up From Your Breakup one-to-one coaching program. And so you can feel free to reach out to me anytime for more information.
Wake up from your breakup. All right. I love it. That's great. Well, Aphrodite is the goddess of relationships. So it's so appropriate to have you on the show because you truly are the goddess of relationships, if you will. Thank you so much for being with us. I think this was super helpful. It's going to help a lot of people. Everyone, check out the show notes. They will have everything that Emmi just mentioned, and her last name is Fortin. Again, that'll be in the show notes, and you can find out more about Emmi. And check us out on YouTube. This show will be on my YouTube channel, which is Fit Amy TV, FITAMY TV on YouTube. And of course, everywhere you can find podcasts. And you know what? This one, definitely share with a friend who needs it. Okay, because I don't know about you, but I've never heard about a breakup relationship coach. And I could have used Emmi years ago. Hopefully, Emmi, I won't need you in the future. But maybe I will. But I can tell you what, there's a lot of people that definitely could use you. So please pass on Emmi's information to anyone in need, because we're really here to try to help heal the world, help ease another person's load, help share love and good feelings and good energy. And, Emmi and I want to help use our pain, our struggle, to help other people not feel the same pain and struggle. So we all need to help each other. So, Emmi, thank you.
Those Instagram things going by to, give you that thing you need during the day.
Yeah, that little, just, you like you said, when you ask for the help, keep your eyes open. And it might be just like that quick swipe of Instagram, that one image, that one picture, the book that falls off the shelf, the license plate at the stop sign. You just never know how the universe is giving you what you've been asking for, but you have to be awake enough, conscious enough to be receiving it. That's a thing I've learned too.
Yes, I agree.
Emmi, thank you so much.
Thank you, Amy.
Okay, everyone. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching and listening to Awakening Aphrodite with Emmi Fortin. Would you like to support my mission to help empower people all over the world to be all of who they truly are? If so, please subscribe to the show, leave a review on iTunes, and share it with a friend. And if you're looking to take immediate action to align your energy and optimize your health, visit emmifortin.com. Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite. Let's awaken her together in you. I'm your hostess, Emmi Fortin, and I already can't wait to be with you again and for you to hear what I have planned for the next show.
Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite with Emmi Fortin. To learn more about Emmi, check out her website, emmifortin.com. That's AMYFOURNIER.com. You can also check out Amy's live and on-demand virtual fitness and yoga classes, and sign up for her newsletter to receive a free mini ebook of 3 of her top tips for making holistic health a lifestyle. Again, that's amyfournier.com and get your ebook sent to your email immediately. Connect with Amy on the daily on Instagram at FitAmyTV, FITAMYTV, and watch many of the podcast episodes and subtopic clips on her YouTube channel, which is also Fit Amy TV. Enjoy, and we'll see you next time on Awakening Aphrodite.